The Supreme Court has issued new guidelines for its own staff. The Deputy Registrar and above-rank officers to attend office from May 4th. The remaining Supreme Court staff to continue to work from home. Remember, the Supreme Court premises will continue to be off limits and it is going to function virtually at this point. Remember, earlier we had also seen one or two cases that were reported from the Supreme Court as well, following which there were certain directions and guidelines that were issued for the working of the Supreme Court there as well. Now, the Supreme Court has issued further new guidelines for its own staff, which also talks about several other key decisions that have been taken, including the Supreme Court premises, which will continue to be off limits and function virtually. Let me go across to our Deputy News Editor Meenakshi, who's joining me on the phone line. Meenakshi, what are the details you're picking up at this point on those new guidelines that the Supreme Court has issued for its own staff?
Well, Apurva, at the outset, our viewers will recall the Supreme Court physically has been out of bounds for lawyers and also litigants and other staff members of the Supreme Court. For instance, the canteen services in the Supreme Court has been shut for a fairly long time. You rightly mentioned that there was one instance of a COVID positive case that has emerged, subsequent to which there were a lot of features that had kicked in. But the Supreme Court functioning virtually was something which has been underway for a fairly substantial period of time. Tomorrow is the 4th of May when the new lockdown features take effect, Apurva, which categorizes sensitivity pertaining to zones. Therefore, in light of that, there has been a graded relaxation that the court has permitted. This will be termed as a partial modification of the Supreme Court's own earlier orders, which shut down the physical premises of the Supreme Court. Like you rightly mentioned, this time around, the Chief Justice of India has been pleased to direct that all the officers in the ranks of Deputy Registrar and above, or their equivalent in the registry office, shall be attending office from Monday. But that apart, the remaining of the staff shall continue to work from home on such terms and conditions as has been notified earlier by the Supreme Court. And additionally, the Supreme Court will continue to remain physically off bounds for lawyers, litigants, and all other staff members. And we know that the Supreme Court has been functioning virtually. It will continue to do so.
All right, Meenakshi, many thanks for joining us and giving us those updates coming in from the top court.